In today's video, I am going to do a bit of product testing. I've got a set of Uukha limbs here that one of my patrons sent me, and I don't remember what brand they are because it's been a while since they talked to me about it. It's been a while since I've had them, but I'm finally going to be testing these Ex-1s from Uukha and give a bit of feedback as to what I think and feel about them as the limb itself, and we'll do some testing that I'm excited to share in this video. For those of you that are new here, my name is Kaminski. I'm a two-time Olympic silver medalist in the sport of archery, and we're going to make this channel a great resource to all types of archery. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscription button and the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video is uploaded. I'd appreciate it. So, like I said, I got these limbs from a Patreon member and a Patreon supporter of this channel. By the way, if you'd be interested in supporting my channel, I would appreciate it if you're interested in checking out the many different ways to support my channel, including a P.O. box to send things to, Patreon, Apparel, and a bunch of other things. I'll have links in the description below and a card at the top here to my website. And I appreciate everybody that has been supporting me, and special thanks to Ryan for sending me a set of these limbs to try out. So what I'm going to do today in this video, besides looking at them, checking them out, talking to you about them, I'm going to go shoot. I'm going to shoot this bow with these limbs here, actually over there, that I've already have set up. I already have relatively tuned. I'm going to make sure that it is still tuned. I'm going to put the bear shafts right in the group at 30 meters, and I'm going to measure the bow weight of that riser, the Win-N-Win ATF behind me, with the NS limbs, which are a few years old by now. See how fast they are and at which bow weight they are, and then I'm going to do the same with these limbs here. They're relatively the same build. They're both long limbs. These happen to be 40-pound limbs, and these also happen to be 40-pound limbs. So I know they're measured at slightly different draw lengths, but they're a pretty close apple-to-apple comparison to see if these, all carbon, extra recurve style limbs are any faster or get me the same tune at less bow weight, which would be a big benefit in my opinion, because then that way you could shoot potentially heavier arrows, which would drift less in the wind. Heavier arrows means stiffer arrows also, and so you could shoot a heavier arrow ultimately at the same poundage to have less wind drift downrange, or shoot the same arrows that you're used to at lower draw weight. So it'll be a neat little comparison that we'll do in this video to see how these limbs actually stack up. Now, these aren't very expensive limbs. I believe these retail for in the $370 range, I believe. So yeah, like I said, I'm excited to try these out. Overall, I mean, I've always been impressed with how the Uukhas look. They're all carbon limb, which I'm a big fan of. I've mentioned in the past in a few different videos how I have a bit of concerns with quality control, or the ability to control quality. Not necessarily the actual quality control, but the ability to control the quality. How do they make sure that there's equal amounts of resin, equal amounts of carbon, no imperfections in the limbs and things like that. Other limbs always have imperfections anyways, so, I think it's probably not that big of a deal. Now, because my other limbs over here don't have limb savers on them and don't have these, I forget what they're called, but they're by October Mountain Products, these like limb correctors or something like that. I forget the name. I'm going to take those off to make sure that there is no influence as far as, the weight of them on the actual limbs, so they're not potentially slowing me down. I will send some double-sided tape along back with these so Ryan can stick them back on, or I'll put them back on for him actually. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go outside and shoot this ATF-X, the NS limbs, with some Easton X10 410s with 100 grain points. I think they are right about 29 inches raw shaft length, so they're pushing 25.5 inches long overall, just for reference in case you're interested in that type of data. And then after that, like I said, I'm going to get a quick baseline tune to make sure it's good to go still, shoot it through a chronograph, measure the bow weight, do some basic calculations. We'll do the same with these limbs, and we'll see if it tunes at any different draw weight, and I'll be able to feel these and describe to you how they feel in this video. All right, so before we do that really quick, I'm just gonna pop these off of the limbs, so that way, like I said, there is no sort of unfair comparison from the limb manufacturers to each other. Because, like I said, I've not really actually shot these Uukhas before. I've shot a couple shots at blank bale using some people's limbs at World Cups, and actually just shot their bow to grab them and try them. And, they feel pretty good. They feel really smooth through the clicker because of this super ultra recurve type design. and it's a unique and interesting little thing that they've got going. Quick little tip, by the way, is these limb savers, which I'll put a link in the description below, is where you can find these limb savers as well as those other things from OMP. But I will also post a link in the description below where you can get double-sided tape that will allow you to re-stick these on different sets of limbs. I used to do it all the time at the Olympic Training Center because I really couldn't afford more than just one set. And as I got new limbs and stuff given to me through that program, I'd peel off my other ones and stick them on my new limbs. So I'll put that in the description below. So as I'm getting this chronograph set up really quick so I can have it ready for me out there on the range right away, all of this stuff that I'm using in this video, including this chronograph, as well as the biter blocks that I'll align the limbs with, and the bow scale and all those things, I'll have links in the description below on where you can find all those, just in case you're interested in picking up something along the lines that I am using, because all of these things are relatively useful in setting up Olympic-style recurves, and at least finding some really cool data that you can use in the future for learning how to set up equipment and comparing and contrasting different things. This is just a basic chronograph. It's the Chronograph PAL from Competition Electronics. It's really pretty much straightforward and simple. Because I'm going outside, I don't need my light kit out there, and it'll be pretty easy for me to compare and contrast arrow speeds, and then compare bow weights, and then really see if one set of limbs is faster than the other. Okay, so I'm at 30 meters from here. So a lot of people have been asking what I use as a rangefinder. This is just a loop-holed RX full draw. It's specifically for archery. I don't find any difference between the archery ones and the ballistics-based ones. As far as like using the cosines and stuff like that when you're starting to shoot angles, they're all about the same. But that's the one that I'm using. I'll put a link in the description below for that as well. So anyway, I'm here at 30 meters, and I got to make sure that my brace height's good, at least where I like it, which it is, right at 8 7/8, which is like 22.5 centimeters. I'm here at 30 meters. I'm going to shoot 3 flat shafts and 3 bare shafts. I'll probably shoot a couple ends to make sure that my tune is close or whatever. I'm going to need to make some adjustments, most likely to get the bare shafts landing in the group, and I'll go from there. I've got a camera downrange as well, so you'll be able to see the impacts as well as what the tune is doing shot by shot. Really quick before I do that, you'll see that my 3 bare shafts rather, are just bare. I don't have tape on them. You can put tape on them that weighs the same as the vanes and all that. I don't find the need to do that because I don't base my final tune and final setup on what's down there at 30 meters. I go back to 70 and do my fine tuning to really get the best result possible, the best grouping possible, and I don't really care about the tune all that much. This basic type of tune is just going to get me compared, so I can compare these limbs to those Uukha limbs and then get a direct comparison as to what is actually faster or what's tuning at the different or potentially lower draw weight. So I'm going to do this now. I guess I should set my sight for 30. I think I just passed through. I have not done that on this target yet. Must have found a soft spot or a hole or something. This target is 5-6 years old after all, and I have rebuilt it twice, swapped the cores around, but I haven't checked this one in a while. Okay, we're good on that one. I'm gonna shoot a couple more flat shafts to get warmed up quick. All right, let's shoot a bare shaft. Didn't fly very good, but I don't know where it went. I'll have to go down there after I shoot all 3 and check. Knocking points high. All right, I'm gonna go down and check. So apparently it's really far off, not even close. And this is actually what this is the tune and the exact setup that I shot the other day for the very first time at 70 meters in over 3 years and shot a 333. So this in itself is proof that you don't really need a very tuned bow in order to shoot decent scores. If you haven't seen that video yet, there'll be links in the description below, plus I'll put a card at the top. So you can tell my knocking point is relatively high, and I'm definitely relatively stiff over here. So I'm gonna make some adjustments, probably go up a turn, and bump my rest around a bit to try to get these grouping a bit better before we get a good speed comparison and bow weight comparison for those Uukha limbs. I passed through somewhere in this area. Look at that. Found a little crack. Passed right through. Whoops. Too bad I didn't do this beforehand. I would have made that a bear shaft. Still stiff. I'm just gonna have to make the adjustments off camera, so that way you guys don't have to sit me here and watch me tune my bow for forever. And I'll cut to that where I'm tuned. Then we'll shoot it through the chronograph, weigh it, and then get to the Uukahs. Okay, so a little shaky. I mean, I'm out of shape. I haven't shot in a while. Out of shooting shape, at least. And, you know, this is all right. Not too bad. I can shoot all 6 within the gold at 30. I wish they were a little tighter, but I'm a little sloppy on my form, not going to lie. But still, you can tell that, you know, I'm relatively tuned. I've got my three flet shafts here, 3 bear shafts here. So it's pretty well within the group. More than acceptable, good enough to go. So you can tell that this is a good enough tune for myself at 30 meters. And I'll make sure the Uukahs look very similar when I'm done. Now I'm going to set up my chronograph, shoot a couple of arrows, a couple of the flet shafts through it, get a measurement of the bow speed, and I'll make sure to do it from the same distance from the chronograph, and that way everything is really trying to compare apples to apples. Alright, so now I'm going to shoot a few arrows through the chronograph. I'll do all 3 from the same distance, and we'll be able to see what speed they are. I'm going to shoot all flet shafts and all from the same distance, so we'll be able to compare apples to apples here. .204. Now this is in feet per second. And 204. So we're going to definitely call that 204 feet per second. So now I'm going to head back inside, set up the Uukahs, shoot them, do the same thing, and we'll compare and see if they're any faster, any different than your standard limb. NS and the, what are these, Ex-1s. So it was 204 feet per second. Got my bow scale here. .4701 pounds. I'm going to do this 3 times again as well on the clicker. 46.15. 46.59. So I'm going to call it 46.6 pounds as the average. It's pretty close to the middle of all those 3. As we move along, at the end of the video, I'm going to do a comparison of how we'll be able to truly compare apples to apples to see if one limb is faster, literally faster than the other, and we'll go from there. But for now, 204 feet per second at 46.6 pounds. For the NS limbs. My biter blocks, make sure my limbs are aligned. I'll check these limbs really quick. Maybe I can use my stabilizer as a reference as it's built, hopefully. Yep, good. So I can use that as a reference. Luckily, everything's all pretty straight. I know that because my limbs are aligned to my riser with a straight stabilizer. So I don't have to work on readjusting that at all. I can just use it as a baseline, and I got very lucky on that. So first thing to note is they're not actually labeled top and bottom, which really isn't a problem for me. I could figure that out based on the way the number layout is. With the limb in this configuration, you can read it. It's not upside down. And with this limb in this configuration, you can read it without it being upside down. I do think, though, that for your general public, especially first-time users, first-time shooters, they should absolutely be labeled top and bottom. You know, I'm comfortable and know this, that generally your top limb has less logos than the bottom limb, but your general starter will not know that. So definitely, you know, not very nice. I would rather it see top and bottom marked. You can tell based, again, on these logos, which is top and bottom. But again, your general beginner will not be able to know that. And I think that that's a problem. or at least it could be a problem. I want to see how tight these limbs fit on these limb bolts. They're pretty loose. They are used, so they're not brand new. I can feel a teeny bit of play in there, like maybe a 5 to 10 thousandths click. So, you know, I think that they're a little loose. At least that's the bottom limb for you. Top limb's a little snugger, so it might just be due to the wear because these limbs are used. So I'm not gonna really strictly comment and say anything about that, but they are a little loose. My Win-N-Win limbs are used as well, pretty heavily, and they're not loose like that. What that can do and what that can cause is a slight change in your limb alignment over time as you are shooting your arrows, because they could, you know, align this way and then align this way and slop back and forth. And I think that that could be an issue. It's hard to say if that's because of the previous user or if it's just the way they're designed. These limb tips are definitely a little more difficult to work with as far as stringing the bow goes. And they're a little more terrifying because there's a lot less material out there to hook it on. But, you know, they work, they don't fall apart. And it seems to be okay. You know, I've never heard of any failures. It's just a little scary because they're different. They are a much narrower limb. I have to really clip in deep on the biter blocks. Top limb's perfect, bottom limb's pretty far off. So that is what it is. Should not take me long to adjust it with this Win-N-Win adjustment system. Make sure I was on the biter block correctly first, because the limbs have a very odd shape that is not exactly ideal for these biter blocks. And now because the bottom one was so far off, my top one's now off, but you know, that's very typical and to be expected. Alright, now my limbs are aligned already, and that took, you know what, 5 minutes maybe? So, super simple, nothing really an issue. The only thing that I'm really seeing so far is the shape of the limb, which I'll show you here in a second. The shape of the limb at the base of the riser is a little odd. It's got a big slope to it, so when you're putting the biter blocks on there, you got to make sure that you really have it engaged on the limb right. Otherwise, I think that, you know, there could be an issue there. It's just the way that that slope is, it's an ever-changing surface as opposed to more of a flat spot that you can put your limb bolts or your biter blocks on. I don't see it being necessarily an issue for limb alignment, but I think for tiller setup, at least really accurate tiller setup, it's not going to be ideal. So you can see through here, it's kind of still sloping away here. So I'm going to check my tiller with my bow square and see if it's inconsistent. I mean, I can use the surface of the riser as a consistent point, luckily. Luckily, it doesn't change a whole lot through here. So just make sure you use your riser as a flat surface. So the limb balance is definitely different than Win-N-Win from the factory. 3/8 of an inch total split on tiller, which is more than my Win-N-Win limbs were. And my brace height is now very low. It's at 8 5/8 due to the extra preload of these limbs. Now I don't know what the actual recommended brace height is on these limbs. Based on the limb groove, they probably should be lower brace height. So before I go bare shaft tune, I'm going to check Uukha's website and see if I can find a recommended tiller for these, or I mean a recommended brace height for these rather, before I actually do some shooting, and make sure I set it similar, or make sure that it'd be okay that I have it set where I have my Win-N-Win set. Because, you know, if we're going to compare apples to apples, it's really important to have the same brace height to compare the two equally. I'm not going to weigh it yet until the video's over. Oh, wow, they feel really light. And very smooth through the clicker. So it could be just because the Win-N-Wins are measured at a shorter draw length. We'll find out in the end after I shoot and feel this, because it's going to be very interesting to see, like as a blind type study, with how does it feel versus what are the actual numbers. So if it feels that much smoother, that'd be a really good thing, at least in my opinion, especially if I'm shooting relatively the same bow weight. So I think we'll keep that as the experiment for this video without actually being able to know the numbers until the end. So it's more exciting that way. Okay, so I checked the recommended brace height, and it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 225 millimeters, which is right where I normally run it at the 70-inch bow length. So I am gonna twist the string up. It's funny that the preload on the limbs at brace height is much higher with these limbs, or the preload on the strings rather. So I've got to add quite a bit of twists. So 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 5 twists be my guess. Get it up close to where I was. Every time I string the bow, that happens. The limb wants to slip out because the dovetail's so easy to slide in and out. There's 22.5 exactly. So it's right where the middle of their range and right where I like it. I have not changed my sight from when I shot the other limbs either. The tiller is pretty much the same, within a millimeter or two. Again, brace height's the same, string's the same, plunger tension's the same, center shot's the same. Limbs are aligned, stabilizers are the same, arrows are the same, tabs the same. Draw length isn't changing. And you lose your finger sling. Oh, I gotta go get another one again. Okay, so my finger sling's now different. Found the other one that I was using the other day. Distance is the same, so everything is the same. So we'll be able to compare apples to apples. Like I said, these limbs felt light. Doesn't mean that they are. Maybe they're heavy. But just feel that much smoother. So we're gonna find out. I'm gonna shoot alternating flet shafts and bare shafts without moving my sight, see where they end up and how the tune compares. They sure feel smooth, and they're quiet. I can't see where the flet shaft or the bare shaft went, but I can definitely tell you that there is way less high frequency vibration, but there is a ton more low frequency like vibration. So I don't know if my tiller's off or what's going on, but because of the all carbon design, it actually has very little high frequency vibration. It's really nice. Very, very, very easy to get through the clicker. Arrows are flying knock high, but I can't see where they're impacting from here. Oh man, but they do sure feel smooth. That's really cool. I like the feel of them a lot. So I'm gonna go down there and see where the arrows land and keep thinking about how these feel. Well, no kidding, couldn't see where they were landing. They're way over here. So I'm gonna have to crank my limb bolts in quite a lot to get them within tune range. And yeah, we're gonna go from there. So the knocking points definitely changed quite a bit too. So, I mean, that's a solid 13 to 14 inches off. Again, I do believe that the limbs are lighter because the wind and winds are measured at a shorter distance, a shorter draw length. I don't know exactly how much difference that is. Okay, so I definitely need to go up a lot in bow weight, or at least up in limb bolts. I don't know what my bow weight is yet. So I'm gonna go 2 full turns, if I've got that much adjustment. I think 1 might be all I can do on that top limb because the limb bolts are starting to get in so far. But I'm gonna make it work one way or another. Yeah, that's it. I can't go in any further at the moment. Might be able to figure something out here, but not yet. So I'm gonna shoot an end with 1 turn on there. See if it puts me any closer. Hit that soft spot. Passed right through. What a little luck. I think I can go up a little bit more. Yeah, that is absolutely far in as I can. That's 2 full turns in, but they're starting to feel more like the W&Ws as far as actual draw weight goes, as expected. Because like I said, the W&Ws are measured at a shorter draw length, I believe. That's tuned a little better. Still no high frequency vibration, but definitely a different lower frequency vibration now. Go see how the tune is. What will happen is I'm going to see what I can do to make this work without changing things that I don't want to, so we can still compare apples to apples and get this to be an equal comparison, but we're getting much closer now. So far the limbs feel really nice. The bow weight's coming back up, so they're feeling more similar to the actual W&W limbs, and I don't know, overall right now the vibrational properties is very interesting. No high frequency vibration, a little bit of low frequency vibration that I think with some time, playing with tiller, brace height, and stabilizer dampening setup, I think it would all go away and it would feel, I mean, like a set of limbs I've never felt before as far as vibration goes. Really nice feeling limbs for the price point, actually. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. So what I'm checking for is seeing if the top of the limb bolt is touching the limb, or if there's still a little bit of room that I can go in with the limb bolts, and they're just about flush, so I think I might be able to eke out a teeny bit more. Now this should put it really, really close. I'll check my tiller, because my bear shafts are hitting a little low, so it might just need a higher knocking point for whatever reason. So this is definitely something I'm not a fan of. Those limb tips, the string doesn't want to stay on. It always keeps sliding off. Kind of a pain in the butt, to be honest. You just have to always have tension on it like this, otherwise they just fall right off. It's starting to get hard to string with so much preload on the limbs. Whew. Still safe though. That's about it. I can't do any more. Alright, brace height is exactly the same as the W&W. And this is as far as I'm willing to take a limb bolts in. Brace height's still good, tiller is fine. Again, no change from the W&W other than the limbs. Okay, so I don't know if my other camera died or whatever mid-round of shooting there, but as you can tell, this is actually a more consistent tune, stiff to weak, compared to the ATF. Looks good. So I'm going to shoot through the chronograph, then we'll go inside and check the bow weight and see if there's anything neat to talk about inside after finding out which bow is faster as well as which bow shoots more efficient. And I'll talk about efficiency inside in a moment. Okay, so now we're back here after it is tuned, and I'm at blank bail distance, same distance from the chronograph. Shoot some arrows. .208. Wow, it's actually faster. Surprising. I wasn't anticipating it. Not 4 feet per second. That's a pretty big jump. .207. And 207. So we'll call it 207 feet per second. 207.3 if you really want to. It's actually surprising to see that it is faster with the same tune. Do not know if it's the same bow weight or higher or lower, and we're going to talk about more in detail why that's important when we go inside here in a second. Okay, so now we know that what I shot with the Ex-1 limbs as far as speed was 208 feet per second, and that was a increase of 4 feet per second over the NS limbs at the same tune with all sorts of the same stuff. You know, that's pretty impressive as far as a speed performance increase. So now we're going to check the draw weight that I did it at. You know, as I first went out there, it felt way too light, and there was definitely, you know, a suspicion that it was light, especially because Win measures at a different draw length. So, I mean, I had to go in 3.5-ish turns, which is more than I was expecting. So let's check the draw weight. 45.99 actually feels that's lighter. Interesting. 45.99. Holy cow, that's rare to have two of the same number. 46.43. I'm going to do that one more time, seeing how the second one was really quick. 46.37. I'm just going to call it 46.25 pounds, because that's probably pretty similar to the middle. 46.2. We'll just call it 46.2 pounds. Now, obviously it's faster and it's at less draw weight. So what I like to do when I'm comparing limbs to other limbs is to do feet per second per pound. That really ends up breaking down like more of an efficiency thing than anything else, rather than just saying, oh yeah, these limbs are faster. Well, usually when limbs are faster, they're faster at higher draw weights, not lower draw weights. So I'm actually shocked and impressed that not only did I see a speed increase, but I also saw a weight decrease. That is something that is not common. Usually when the speed goes up, the bow weight goes up. So it's definitely not something I normally see. So I want to grab my other phone here. 204 feet per second divided by 46.6 pounds. 4.38 feet per second per pound. Okay, if that makes sense. So it's 4.377. So I round that up, 4.38. And it's 208 divided by 46.2. And I get 4.50 feet per second per pound. So that's a pretty shocking number to me to see that much of a difference. Now, it doesn't seem like it's much of a difference. It is really, in my opinion. So let's see how much more efficient or how much faster it is. According to this, if you divide the two numbers, you're right around like 2.7 to 3% increase. That's a big, big jump as far as efficiency goes. So as far as I'm concerned, seeing a speed increase that much is actually very, very impressive. You know, especially for a budget-minded limb. You know, they're extremely stiff as far as rotational or torsional stability goes. They feel pretty good. They are heavier down through this section, and then they don't actually get easier. The bow weight doesn't go down. It just feels smoother through the clicker. Now, if these were the proper weight limbs, like if I had 2 pounds heavier limbs, so I didn't have to have the limb bolts cranked in so far, I bet you'd feel a little smoother through that clicker zone, and the speed and performance and the efficiency might be slightly different. So it's not entirely apples to apples and entirely fair, but it is very, very close. Like I said, I kept the string the same, the plunger tension the same, center shot the same, tab the same, draw length the same, everything the same. I didn't even change my sight pin, and they all hit about the same spot between the two different setups. These were 4 feet per second faster, and you know, it's tough to say feeling. Does it feel smoother? Yes and no. You know, the added weight down here compared to the Wins, it's something different, something that I'm not necessarily, I wouldn't say comfortable with, because that's not the correct word, but something that's different for sure, and it's interesting to say the least. I don't believe that there's an issue. I don't believe that I don't like it. I think I like it. It would be something that I needed to shoot more. And, you know, as far as like what I didn't like, the harshness afterwards, the high frequency vibration was gone, absolutely gone, which I like. But that low frequency, like there was a bit of like a bit more harsh vibration after the shot, only in the low frequencies. But I think I could probably get that to go away with more brace height playing, more tiller playing, and more stabilizer setup playing to work within what I like to get rid of that. I think I could. Not 100% positive. Maybe I'll try it in the future. But as of right now, I mean, I like the way they feel, and I'm impressed, genuinely impressed that they're that much faster in my experience, my testing here. The things that I don't like about this, like I said, that vibration. I don't like that there's a little bit of extra slop in here. You know, they're not heavily used. They're not abused. There are some marks in here. It's a little bit too loose. It fell out of my bow a few times during testing and during adjusting, during setting up and specifically adjusting my brace height because the string kept falling off the limb tip. The limb fell out a couple times, and a few times the limb like wanted to come out as I was stringing the bow. Luckily, with the way the wind and winds are, it doesn't want to do that. Yes, I could have used a stringer, but I don't because I'm out there stringing, unstringing 100 times while I'm tuning. It's so much easier to just do it without a stringer. So another thing I don't like I said, the string kept falling off the limb tips every 2 seconds while I was trying to adjust stuff. Kind of a bit of a pain because as it falls off, you lose twists and you don't know how many. So to get it back to the right brace height, you constantly got to string and unstring. Bit of a you know, nitpicky complaint there. I could wrap a rubber band around the bottom limb tip and that would solve that issue. I've done that in the past. You know, the fit and finish of everything, like I said, the fit of the limb groove was a little didn't snap in very positively into the dovetail, at least in my wind and wind bow. You know, overall, as far as like finish, it's great. They're very sharp. I like the matte finish. The all carbon is cool. The graphics are interesting. They have a flying squirrel on this one for an unknown reason. I don't follow Uukha. I honestly don't really follow the archery industry much anymore, but they've got a really good feel. And like I said, for the price point, you can't really go wrong. You know, I believe you really can't go wrong with this type of setup, this type of price point. There's some technology in here that's definitely different. The curve, the all carbon compared to other manufacturers, and it feels good and you actually get some speed. Now, are they more forgiving? Are they more accurate? Hard to say. That is a very subjectional thing and would take some months of testing to get some real actual feedback for you guys. I may go shoot some more with it and play with them to adjust tiller, brace height, and stuff like that to see if I can get them to feel better. Maybe I'll go shoot them on a bare bow, do some string walking with them. I don't have time for this video alone. I wanted to pack a lot of information in this video to try to make it a little bit more data heavy as opposed to just me talking in front of a camera and shooting a few arrows. So please, if you liked this video, you liked this review, let me know in the description below. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and if you have any more feedback or any details that you would really like me to cover with doing reviews on product equipments and limbs and things like that, let me know. I'm always open for suggestions because sometimes people have different thoughts, opinions, and different approaches. And I know that, so I would like to try to work with everybody to make a better channel and a better resource for people to review equipment, or see equipment reviews rather. And I'm happy to do this type of stuff, especially because I have my range built again. I got to go fix that target so I don't pass through anymore. But otherwise, I'm having fun and I'm happy to be out here. So, hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, consider hitting the subscription button and the notification bell, as well as the like button. I would appreciate it. Also, please consider supporting my channel. If you head to my website, jakekaminski.com, there'll be info and links on Patreon, apparel, books, and equipment sales, PayPal donate button, a P.O. box to send things to, and above all else, please share this video because there's no better advertising than word of mouth.